Hey everyone, it's Pat. Today I want to show you a really cool setup I've been working on with my Starlink Mini and my Hummer EV. Whether you're camping, road tripping, with the family, or just need reliable internet on the go, this combo has you covered. Now, here's a little backstory. I got the Starlink Mini for Christmas from myself. Yep, that's the kind of grown-up I am now. I pick out the gifts I want, hand them to my wife, and she wraps them up. It's efficient and there's no socks involved. So this is the Starlink Mini, a compact, portable internet solution that we are planning on using for camping trips, road trips, staying connected while traveling, situations where we may not have the best internet coverage. First, let's talk about the case. I found this sleek little gem on Amazon and it's been a lifesaver. It's much slimmer than those massive Pelican cases you see everywhere. Sure, those things are great if you're planning to trek through the apocalypse, but for everyday use, this case is lightweight, compact, and still protective enough to handle some bumps. Best of all, it keeps everything organized. The Starlink Mini cables and accessories fit perfectly without rattling around. It's an easy choice for people who want portability without the bulk. I've included a link in the description if you're interested. Next up is the suction cup mount. I wanted a mounting solution that wouldn't damage my Hummer. This fit the bill perfectly. It was sturdy, adjustable, and works like a charm. The real test was mounting it on the Hummer's transparent roof ceiling panel. I'll show you how it held up later, but spoiler alert, it was absolutely solid. It stayed secure even on rough dirt roads. If you've been looking for a versatile mounting option, this one's definitely worth checking out. There's a link below if you want to try it out. So to power the Starlink, I planned on using this USB-C cable that I could plug into the back of the Hummer's USB-C port. As it turns out, the Hummer's USB-C port doesn't supply enough power to power the Starlink Mini. With that being said, I did try the cable with a different adapter and it worked just fine. So again, this is something that I'd recommend. I'll probably try a battery bank and I might use that in certain situations, so it's good to know the cable works. So here is where I'm planning on mounting it. I don't know how often I'm going to leave it up there, but I was thinking I'll run the cable back and under the seat and then try to possibly get it under the mats if necessary. So it's funny, I did a time-lapse video and didn't need to do the time-lapse video. That installed extremely easy. All I had to do was just make sure that these little clips right here were flipped out, and I just held up the black part, pushed it up so the suction cup was on it, flipped the clips back up to lock the suction cup in place, and I'll tell you what, this thing seems pretty secure. I don't have too much concern about it coming loose, so let's go ahead and get it plugged in and see how it works. So as I mentioned, I planned on using this USB-C cable to power the Starlink, but I quickly realized that the output of the USB-C wasn't enough to power the device. So I switched over to the 120 that comes with the Starlink. It comes with a massive amount of cable, which is probably really convenient if you're going to set this out upside or put it on the roof of your travel trailer or mount it somewhere else. But for my application, it's way too much cable. I'll more than likely end up purchasing something much like the USB-C cable that I have, or just get that battery bank I mentioned earlier as well to power the Starlink. So, but for now, this is a test. I just want to see how it works, so I just used the cable that came with it, the power adapter that fit nicely into the 120 of the Hummer, and I got everything powered up. Also, don't forget, when you do start the truck, you do have to turn on the power. It's the bottom left-hand side of the truck, and make sure that that inverter is turned on. I thought that originally was only for the bed, but it turns out it's also for the cabin. So let's see how it works. With the Starlink Mini installed and powered up, I was ready to start my testing. Right away, I noticed a faint buzzing coming from the unit. After looking into it a little bit, I found that it's completely normal and it's just part of how the system operates. So there's really no need to worry about it, I think. For my first speed test, I kept things simple. I didn't even bother aligning or adjusting the dish. I didn't move the vehicle around. It was just in my driveway, the roof was slanted back, I guess, because my driveway's got a little bit of an angle, and it was pointed to the south. And I believe the dish is supposed to be pointed to the north for best operation. And surprisingly, it still worked well. The connection was solid enough to handle your basic things like browsing and streaming. So I was actually pretty impressed, given the angle that I had was completely opposite of what it was supposed to have. What that told me, that was probably, even in maybe not the best scenarios, that I'm still going to have pretty good reception with it. One hiccup that I did run into was my account. I had actually paused my Starlink account earlier, so I had to unfreeze that, unpause it, and get my service reconnected. It took just a few minutes from doing it, but that actually highlights one of the benefits, I think, of the Starlink system overall, is the ability to pause and resume your account within a matter of minutes. To me, that's what this service is all about. It's there if we need it and when we need it, and it's not necessarily something that we have to be worried about paying for all the time. I did connect the Hummer to the Starlink, and I did some tests, and from what I could tell, there did seem to be an improvement. Google Maps, for instance, loaded faster and recalculated routes more quickly than usual. It was a noticeable improvement, especially in areas where cellular coverage can be spotty. I actually went to some areas on the map that I've never looked at before. I went to Chicago. I'm actually from Chicago originally, and I can tell you that it loaded up much, much quicker than what I would typically see just using the cellular connection. Overall, the system felt a bit more responsive, like it wasn't struggling to keep up with certain tasks. Streaming music or podcasts through the head unit seemed to be fairly seamless as well. I didn't run into any buffering issues. With all of that being said, the changes weren't night and day across the board, but having a fast and reliable connection definitely helped smooth out some of the delays I'd seen before. It really shows how much of a difference a stable internet connection makes with the Hummer. I'm really anxious to try a quick little road trip up into the mountains with Super Cruise to see if that disconnects. And I'll definitely report back here once I do that to see if it really makes an improvement or not. And if so, that kind of gives a little bit of insight as well to the potential Super Cruise problems with the internet or network connections that a lot of people have speculated on. One thing I did try was running Hulu and seeing how well that improved. Hulu's probably the one app that definitely seems to be internet connection dependent. I'd say overall it did a pretty good job. I did run into some buffering issues though. Again, I'm not sure if it was necessarily Starlink or if it was Hulu itself. But with that being said, overall I've been extremely impressed with the mount setup with Starlink. It's definitely a useful tool to have in your toolkit if you need it. For us, it's going to be fantastic for road tripping, for camping, for places where we just would like a good solid internet connection. It's pretty amazing that we're going to be talking to satellites up in space using this little tiny device about the size of an iPad. So it's pretty cool what you can do with technology. One thing that I did some research on, I can use the cigarette lighter plug in the Hummer. Starlink makes a little adapter that is for the road. I'm guessing as long as I get the right voltage and amperage of the cigarette plug to USB-C, I could just get one off of Amazon as well. So I'll probably try that out also, and I can plug that right into the not the glove box, but the center console of the Hummer, and hide the wires that way, and maybe try to tuck them underneath the floor matting right there. So we'll see how it goes, but I'll keep everyone updated. So far, the setup again works pretty good. Highly recommended if you're looking for something to allow yourself some easy internet while on the go. One other thing that I'm going to end up trying this year is leaving the vehicle on, and I'm going to say indefinitely, but just for an extended period of time, just so that I can keep the Starlink powered up. I am curious how it's going to impact the 12-volt battery. I do know that there's been issues where the 12 volt has discharged under certain circumstances. I'm not sure if that's because the vehicle was running or the vehicle just sat there and it didn't know that it needed to use the high voltage battery pack to charge the 12 volt pack. But overall, everything was a real good test here. The mounts, as you can tell, were pretty secure. I did notice that those little screws there didn't completely tighten that setup to the roof panels, but I'd never heard it rattle once. So again, I highly recommend this setup for anybody that's looking for easy, quick, portable win with the Starlink Mini. Reach out if you have any questions. Be happy to answer them, and I'll be back with more content. We'll see y'all.